We knew it was a bad idea to put them in the same room, but we didn't think it would end like this. This morning, 40 seconds of footage leaked from the set of the reality show Jon Jones and DC are filming in Russia. It wasn't a scripted promo. It was a shoot. Joe Rogan just watched the clip on JRE and he couldn't believe his eyes. While everyone else saw a brawl, Rogan saw technique. He screamed, "Jamie, pause that. Look at the underhook." DC literally high-crotched him in the lobby. That isn't a fight. That is a heavyweight title match on concrete. The UFC is trying to scrub this video from the internet because it violates Jones's contract. I have the full, unedited clip saved before they take it down. Subscribe and hit the bell right now. You need to see the slam before the lawyers get involved. Click that button. Let's watch the tape. Here is the moment the rivalry officially reignited.
And what a stuffy, just dickhead Cormier really is. I think if you really get to know Daniel Cormier, he's really not.
Oh man, what a stuffy, just Cormier really is. I think if you really get to know Daniel Cormier, he's really nut. So, here's what went down in Thailand. Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier got put together for a month, filming this Russian reality show. And when it was all said and done, Jones got in front of a camera to absolutely torch his longtime rival. Called him a straight up. Said he's an who just won't let their beef die, and the whole thing is blown up across the internet because it proves these two still can't stand each other after all these years. Last season I was with Diaz, I was with Masvidal, and I was with Yoel Romero. It was so much fun. It was light-hearted. It was cool. We made good memories. We hung out with each other. This season is against Daniel Cormier. Oh man, what a stuffy, just Cormier really is. I think if you really get to know Daniel Cormier, he's really nut. Yeah, it was nice. It was an eye.
Last season I was with Diaz, I was with Masvidal, and I was with Yoel Romero. It was so much fun, it was lighthearted, it was cool, we made good memories, we hung out with each other. This season is against Daniel Cormier. Oh man, what a stuffy, just dickhead Cormier really is. I think if you really get to know Daniel Cormier, he's really not.
Yeah, it was nice.
He's an asshole. He was an asshole. I mean, he didn't really connect with any of the fighters here. He's just an asshole. I tried to make peace with him many times, and he made it very clear that he wants to be enemies for the rest of his life because how lucrative it is.
He didn't really connect with any of the fighters here. He's just I tried to make peace with him many times, and he made it very clear that he wants to be enemies for the rest of his life because how lucrative it is. This isn't just some promotional nonsense either. This is real hatred between two legends who genuinely despise being in the same room together. The clip that's making rounds everywhere comes from Jones sitting down with Red Corner MMA after they wrapped filming on AL Global. It's basically their version of The Ultimate Fighter filmed in Thailand, with Jones and Cormier's opposing coaches working with up-and-coming fighters. Sounded like must-watch television given their history. But nobody predicted just how much venom would pour out once the official cameras stopped rolling. When they asked Jones about working alongside Cormier, he dropped all pretense and delivered one of the most brutal character assassinations you'll ever see on film. You look at the way that he treats his staff members. He brought like 10 yes-men out with him and literally, "Go get me my water. Where's my this? Why is that this?" It was just, he just bosses guys around. In the times we weren't filming, he wasn't very sociable with the people on that. He's just, I think people that really work with him knows that. Now get this. Jones compared this season to when he worked with guys like Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, and Yoel Romero before. Those dudes, despite being absolute killers themselves, made the whole experience fun. According to Jones, they hung out between filming, grabbed meals together, actually enjoyed each other's company despite the competitive setup. With Cormier, though, completely different story. Jones says the tension never lifted, not even for a second. Every single interaction carried baggage from their past, and Cormier apparently made zero effort to change that dynamic. But the one thing I do know is that I made him cry in front of the world. I took him off of the list of being considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. He'll be even lower in the rankings of the greatest heavyweight of all time, because my prospect, Gable Steffson, is going to be 3 times the champion D.D. Cormier ever was. And so he'll just always be in my shadow, one way or another. But Jones didn't stop there. He went after how Cormier treated the production staff too. Painted this picture of DC surrounded by yes-men barking orders at crew members and basically acting like he was above everyone else working on the show. Says when the cameras weren't rolling, Cormier would disappear, instead of mixing with the people actually making the show happen. Jones is basically saying the beloved commentator, the family man everyone thinks they know, that's all an act, hiding someone much less pleasant behind the scenes. Because 3 years, it became God. This guy's going to punch me. I'm going to punch him. It really was a...
Look at the way that he treats his staff members. He brought like 10 yes men out with him and literally, go get me my water. Where's my this? Why is that this? It was just, he just bosses guys around. You know, and the times we weren't filming, he wasn't very sociable with the people on set. He's just a kid. I think people that really work with him.
Nightmare looking back on it, if I'm being honest with you. It was terrible. It was. Then comes the big question that everyone wants answered. After spending a month together, is there any chance these 2 Hall of Famers could finally bury the hatchet? Jones says absolutely not, and he puts all the blame on Cormier's shoulders. Claims he tried multiple times to extend olive branches during filming. Approached DC with genuine offers to make peace. Figured maybe being away from the fight game might create some space to heal old wounds. But Cormier shut down every single attempt. Made it crystal clear he plans to keep this feud going until one of them is in the ground. And according to Jones, it all comes down to dollars and cents. Their rivalry has been one of the biggest money makers in UFC history, driving pay-per-view numbers through the roof, generating endless media coverage, providing both guys with content that never runs dry. Cormier's built a huge chunk of his broadcasting career around being Jones's enemy number 1. Walking away from that beef means walking away from serious money, and Jones thinks DC is too greedy to do that. Peace was right there for the taking, but Cormier chose profit instead. We fought their first fight in Vegas. I win the first fight. Second fight, Anaheim. You started hitting me in the stomach. Like, I do something. 'Cause I was fighting, like, first 2 rounds. I was like, what am I doing? I call it a day of my life. And I was like, it worked out. Thank God. You know? Thank. You started throwing those shots to the body. Of course, Jones had to bring up that moment that defines everything between them. UFC 214, when he dropped Cormier with that head kick in the 3rd round. Seeing DC crumpled on that canvas, completely unconscious, remains one of the most replayed finishes ever. Jones brings it up because in his mind, That's the final word on who's the better fighter. What?
One thing I do know is that I made him cry in front of the world. I took him off of the list of being considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. He'll be even lower in the rankings of the greatest heavyweight of all time because my prospect, Gable Steveson, is going to be 3 times the champion Daniel Cormier ever was. And so he'll just always be in my shadow.
He conveniently leaves out of this rant is how that victory got erased. Failed drug test for Turin ball turned his knockout into a no contest. Cormier got reinstated as champion, and that knockout Jones treats as his trump card officially doesn't count as a win. Just another asterisk in a career full of them. Then Jones threw in this curveball about Gable Steveson, the Olympic gold medalist wrestler he's taken under his wing. Predicts Steveson will demolish Cormier's heavyweight legacy, become 3 times the champion DC ever was. Even if they never cross paths again, Jones plans to keep his rival in the shadows through his prodigy. Someone who'll achieve everything Cormier couldn't. But the last fight in the Apex, when you look back on it, are you a little? I'm kind of bitter about that. We fought in front of 20,000 bolt times, and the Apex, it wasn't good. It was like awkward, 'cause like you know what funny. You hit me, I hit you, you hear you, like literally hear the echoing of a punch. It was like this is so weird. And then like I hear your coach, I can hear my coach. I'm like, it's like you were sparring. Yeah, it was all, but it was kind of crazy, 'cause I felt like it didn't do justice to what the rivalry was. I know, it kind of. This interview has spread like wildfire across every MMA platform you can think of. MMA fighting jumped on the most inflammatory quotes. MMA Mania focused on Jones claiming Cormier wants to stay enemies forever. Bloody Elbow called it proof that any friendship hopes are dead and buried. Yahoo Sports tied it all back to what the ALF show means for both their media careers. Everyone's reaching the same conclusion, though. Whatever microscopic chance existed for these two to make peace just got nuked from orbit. The timing makes it even more brutal, because Jones was actually optimistic before filming started. Posted on Instagram about how great it would be having Cormier on the show.
3 years, it became, God, this guy's going to punch me, I'm going to punch him. It really was a nightmare looking back on it, if I'm being honest with you.
It was terrible.
Maybe they could work through their messed up relationship. That optimism got completely obliterated by whatever went down in Thailand. I've had a lot of rematches and instances with people, but this is the one that I appreciate the most. Cormier gave his own take on the experience before Jones dropped this bomb. Told Red Corner MMA that being around Jones feels different now that he's done fighting without the threat of actually having to throw down. He says the nastiness has cooled off, described their interactions as professional, admitted they argued plenty, but found ways to coexist without wanting to murder each other. DC also revealed they talked about other ways to compete during filming, argued about a boxing match, which Cormier agreed to, but the real heat came when discussing wrestling. Cormier challenged Jones to a wrestling match and guaranteed he'd win by technical fall 10-0, proving his dominance in the discipline that made him famous before MMA ever existed. This opens the door for their rivalry to continue outside the octagon. Jones acknowledged the wrestling challenge could be interesting, but stopped short of accepting. Probably won't happen, and even if it does, won't bring closure to anybody. What makes this footage go viral isn't just the insults, though those are spicy enough to generate clicks for days. It's the confirmation that after more than 10 years, 2 men who ruled the same division at their peaks still can't be in the same zip code without everything turning toxic. They filmed together for weeks, supposed to mentor young fighters and model professionalism for compelling television. Instead, they left Thailand hating each other more than when they showed up. To really understand why this footage hits so hard, you need to know the catastrophic history these two share. This isn't some manufactured WWE drama cooked up by promoters to sell pay-per-views. This is genuine, poisonous hatred built on public humiliation, physical violence, drug scandals, professional jealousy, and cheating accusations spanning over a decade. Every insult in that viral clip carries the weight of everything that came before. The spark that started this whole mess goes back to 2010 at UFC 21 in Anaheim. Jones was this 22-year-old fawn tearing through the light heavyweight division like a natural disaster. His weird striking angles, that insane reach, his ability to finish guys from positions that shouldn't be possible, marked him as something special. Cormier was competing at heavyweight in Strikeforce, two-time US. Olympian in wrestling with championship dreams of his own. Backstage at that event, Jones approached Cormier with what he called a friendly bet. Said he could take the accomplished wrestler down. Cormier took it as disrespect from some young punk who didn't know who he was talking to, dismissing his Olympic credentials like they meant nothing. The exchange lasted maybe 60 seconds, but that wound festered for years. Both guys interpreted it completely differently and let the resentment grow. By 2014, their beef had become completely unhinged. Cormier dropped to light heavyweight, beat Patrick Cummins and Dan Henderson to earn a title shot against Jones at UFC 78. The UFC saw gold in their mutual hatred and scheduled media events to exploit every drop of it. The trash talk got so intense that during an off-air exchange captured by ESPN cameras, Jones crossed a line that chilled everyone who heard it. Said he would literally kill Cormier. These weren't scripted promotional soundbites. This was real, visceral, and genuinely dangerous. Both men seemed to mean exactly what they were saying. Their first fight went down at UFC 22 on January 3rd, 2015. Jones dominated for 5 brutal rounds, controlling the clinch, landing devastating elbows, outworking Cormier at every turn. Judges scored it 49-46 across all 3 cards. Decisive and comprehensive. In the final seconds, Jones celebrated early and threw what many considered a cheap shot at Cormier, leading to a post-bell scuffle and a crotch chop aimed at his beaten rival. After the fight,
That first fight in Vegas, I won the first fight. Second fight in Anaheim, dude, you started hitting me in the stomach. Like I
I do something because I was fighting like shit.
I could
Those
not
first 2
believe it.
rounds, I was like, what am I doing?
I
I called a
couldn't
day of my
believe it.
life. And I was like, it worked out. Thank God. You know, thank God it worked
Dude,
out.
you started throwing those shots to the apex. When you look back on it, are you a little? I'm kind of bitter about that. We fought in front of 20,000 both times,
I know,
and then
it
to
was
fight
awkward,
the apex,
yeah.
it wasn't good.
It was like awkward because like, you know, what's funny is you hit me, I hit you, and you're, oh, and you like literally hear the echoing of the punch. It was
Yeah.
like, this is so weird. And then like, I hear your coach, I hear my coach. I'm like, it's like we're sparring.
Yeah, it was off, but it was kind of crazy because I felt like it didn't do justice to what the rivalry was.
I know.
neither man will ever back down. And the footage that's captivated the MMA world proves it. The ALF Global Show will eventually air, and audiences will witness some version of what transpired between these two during their weeks together in Thailand. The production team captured their coaching sessions, interactions with fighters, and presumably some of their arguments about boxing and wrestling matches. What the show can't capture is the private contempt Jones described in his interview. The bossing around of staff members, the refusal to socialize, the rejection of every peace offering. Cormier hasn't yet responded directly to Jones's specific accusations from the Red Corner MMA interview. Given his platform as a broadcaster and podcaster, a response is likely coming. When it arrives, it'll probably offer a starkly different account of the same events. That's the nature of their rivalry. They experience the same moments and come away with contradictory interpretations, each convinced the other is acting in bad faith. For fans who followed this rivalry since its inception in 2010, the Thailand footage represents something melancholy. There was a time when reconciliation seemed possible. Jones rehabilitated his relationship with Rashad Evans. Cormier found peace with Stup Moshe. Passage of time heals most wounds, even in combat sports, where the wounds are literal. But Jones and Cormier appear to be the exception. They're two of the greatest fighters in UFC history. Men whose legacies will endure long after they stop competing. They share a history that includes two of the most anticipated fights ever staged, and they can't stand each other. The viral footage confirms what many suspected. This rivalry ends only when one of them dies. Until then, every interview, every podcast, every chance encounter will carry the weight of everything they did to each other. Jones knocked Cormier unconscious. Cormier watched that knockout get erased from the official record. Neither man will ever forget. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive into one of the most bitter rivalries in combat sports.